didn't know.
start.
I didn't know the punchline. I didn't want to go live yet. Okay.
Well, not Robert Morrison.
Have a good show.
Does everybody have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was all right.
My Redskins lost, but my 49ers won.
I saw that. And the Broncos
And
came
those
back.
Giants, wow, the Giants, David, what happened to them? Holy cow.
Yeah,
Is that your
I
team?
don't. No, I don't. Like I said, I don't really follow football that well, that closely. My wife and I were trying to figure out what teams should be our teams, like a couple of years ago. So we were just trying to figure out because we don't like
decide on football.
Well, no, we didn't. The local team, the Giants and the Jets. I mean, that's like.
Yeah, that's like
obviously you choose the Giants. You choose the Giants now, but that's only because the Jets. I think the Jets this year qualified to get like 6 first-round draft picks because they're so bad. Like they just okay, here you guys go. You need a new team. So so no, I didn't. But I did.
Well,
watch,
the Giants shit the bed in the fourth quarter. I think the team they were playing, which is the Broncos, scored like 30 points in the fourth quarter to come back and beat them.
It's amazing.
It was the largest comeback in years.
Exactly.
That I did see.
Which Broncos is my team, by the way, Steve, because I grew up.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, they got a quarterback this year. They got a team.
Yeah.
Finally. Yeah, some of my family used to live in Denver, so we became Broncos fans from a distance. All right, let's retweet this thing and let's get this show on the road because I know everybody wants to get started. Give me 1 second. A lot of healthcare stuff in the news today, David.
Well, I got up late, so hopefully
somebody's going private.
Hologix?
Blackstone's is taking Hologix private.
Yeah, if we can't get people to buy private equity funds, the private equity funds are going to just buy giant things now. But look, the Hologic, there's probably a lot of cost savings that can be had there. So it'll be interesting to see when they emerge.
Yeah,
because this won't be 5 years. This will be 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. No, private equity is not that patient. All right, I think we're good. All right, let's get this show on the road. Welcome to Wall Street Beats, everybody. I am Steve Lamar, joined by our oil and gas pro, Bob Morris, and our healthcare pro, David Maris. Today is August 20th. Halloween's right around the corner. You guys doing anything for Halloween? Do trick-or-treaters still come by your house in the evenings, or do you guys are you guys a shut the light off crew?
No, definitely not a shut the light. We do every year the same thing. The neighborhood we live in doesn't have a lot of young kids, and the houses are a little bit further apart than conducive for trick or treating. But I always worry about running out of. I always worry about running out of candy, so I over order, and the 12 kids. The 12 kids that show up end up getting tons of candy. So
there you go.
Bob does a whole production though. Bob, are you going to do that again this year?
I wish I could put the camera on our yard. We do it. We go all out. There's a huge graveyard out there. And we got big pumpkins and everything on the porch. And it's all out. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
What about you, Steve?
No, my house isn't really. It's like 70 stairs to the front door, and nobody's making that hike to get any candy. So my house isn't really conducive.
Put a little thing that you slide the candy down to the bottom. They come to the bottom.
Exactly. They ring the bell and we slide the candy down the chute. That's a good idea, actually. But because we live on a hill, it's just not. Kids don't want to. They go to the flat area where there's more houses in a fewer amount of space, and that's where they get the most candy. So they've got it all mapped out. My kids included. All right, let's get this show on the road. Bob, what are you looking at this morning? We got oil sub 60.
Yeah, we've got, it's interesting.
Rumors of a deal in Ukraine.
Yeah, we've said here for several weeks, it's hard to find the bull case for oil. It's really hard to construct a bullish case for oil. And oil's down now 3 weeks in a row. and it's a lot of factors. It's the geopolitical premium coming out because of the peace in the Middle East. As you said, rumors, do we get a deal between Russia and Ukraine? The International Energy Agency came out, it was the last week of the week before, forecasting a glut of crude oil next year. And U.S. oil production continues to slowly creep up because these companies are getting better and better at what they do, getting more oil with the same or less amount of equipment. And OPEC's continuing to put more oil into the market every month. So, the good news is that we've said that the energy stocks are cheap, and at least this morning, every energy name's up pretty much. I mean, they may be pulling back a little bit right now, but the good news is that we've been favoring the natural gas names, and we said, look, even though the futures market out February shows $4 plus, once it starts to get cold, once this weather starts to creep in here, you will see these names start to move. And lo and behold, Natty's up 10% this morning on weather forecasts and some cold weather that's moved in here to the Northeast. And the nat gas names, Expand Energy and EQT, our favorite names, are up nicely here this morning. And that's where we focused and said that's where you're going to be overweight. Those are working this morning. Look, if you didn't buy the dip or didn't buy them originally, do you chase them right here? I didn't, if you own them, you're in great shape. If you don't own them, you say, I missed it. What do I do here? I'd probably be a little bit patient. I mean, you could, but it's tough. It's
being
tough
cute.
Here.
Yeah.
Expand Energy at 105, and it was sub 95 here, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And, EQT is going to report here after the market tomorrow. I expect a solid quarter there. You may see them announce some, cost cuts here just to kind of improve margins and maintain things here. So, but I do think you'll see them, along with all these other energy names, continue to put up nice numbers on continued efficiency gains. In other words, continuing to do more with the equipment that they're drilling and using out there. And you're probably going to hear that EQT, Expand Energy, all these names have a little bit of inventory of production that they could quickly turn on if they wanted to at higher natural gas prices. And I think what EQT will say is that, we can turn on more gas at $4 plus. We're not there yet, but they've got gas in inventory, whether it's just curtailed or choked back production or drilled but uncompleted wells, that they could ramp up production if nat gas runs to $4 to $5. So I think it'll be a good quarter for them. They're probably underperforming relative to Expand Energy this morning. Expand's our favorite name, but EQT, if we get a little bit of a pullback here today or tomorrow, maybe you buy a little bit ahead of the earnings with the call.
Where are you a buyer? Around what price?
Expand Energy, we're waiting to see if it pull back below 95 again, which we're probably not going to get at this point. On EQT, looking at the name here, probably, I was trying to get it in the low 50s. We're at 55.50 here. So where am I a buyer? If we could get it to pull back, again, the low 50s, I'd be a buyer. Like if you don't own it at all and you kept missing it here, maybe you start nibbling here just so you're not totally out in the cold, no pun intended, but, as the weather, as we get in the winter, I expect these names are not going to get clobbered unless we get to January, the end of December, and everybody throws in the towel in the winter and says, oh, it's going to be another warm winter. And that's when they throw in the towel. But until then, I think these names are going to hang in there. And
I was in Chicago last week, and there's no signs of winter there yet.
Yeah, we'll see. It got a little bit cooler here in the Northeast, but that's, again, our preference is we own, the names we own. And we've said we'd be more overweight than nat gas names. And so those are working here this morning. And I think they'll continue to work. I would not be a seller of anything. If you own any of the names that we own, apart from Expand Energy and EQT, EOG, Chevron, Exxon, CNQ, we'd continue to hold those. We wouldn't be a seller, despite.
And you think
the fact that oil is below 57, and these names have done relatively well. I mean, they're down a little bit, but not huge. I wouldn't sell them here. If you thought oil was going to 40, maybe oil goes below. Some people think, we were talking last week, Charlie thinks it goes to 55. I'm not. Even if you believe that, I'm not selling the names thinking oil may pull back another $2 here in the near term.
Yeah. And it could easily, if they get closer to a deal with Ukraine, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, Trump is this weekend, again, threatening India with even greater tariffs if they continue to buy crude oil from Russia. So, the downside is that all of a sudden there's a deal between Ukraine and Russia, and Trump says, okay, India, you can buy oil from Russia again, and Russia's allowed to put their oil back in the market that's curtailed or sanctioned right now. So, yeah, again, it's hard to make a bullish case for crude oil here. But again, I think the names are cheap and they largely reflect this lower price already.
What names in that space do you like on a pullback?
Well, obviously,
what are your top three in the oil names?
Yeah, on the oilier names. Yeah, so EOG, but EOG has a gas component to it. But EOG, and then probably Exxon and Chevron, just because they're integrated and they got some insulation on the downside from their downstream operations.
So big cap. Okay.
Yep.
All right, good. Thank you, Robert. Mr. Maris, good morning.
Good morning.
Listening astutely there, I see.
What's that?
Listening astutely there, I see.
Yeah, well, because I own a bunch of names. Bob has.
That's what I said.
You're still in the money, David. David panicked last January when C&Q was 27.5, and I told him to buy it, and he's held on. You're doing well, David. You're in the money still. Just hang on.
Yeah, I have. It's weird because I don't have steady hands like for certain things I do. It's weird. Like if someone looked at all my trading, they'd be like, well, he has steady hands for some things that I shouldn't have steady hands for. And then others you don't like. How do you buy pre-market a lot of stock that you're not so sure about and not be nervous? But for other things like you have a small position in an oil and gas thing that you trade around because you chase it. So it's interesting. I think the most investors, if they bought and held rather than and waited for news that actually changes your thesis, you'd actually do fewer trades and be a lot more profitable. But I just need that on a sign in front of me or something. But today there's actually a good lesson in that too. Two biotech companies had news out over the weekend at the ESMO conference. It's a cancer conference, and two stocks that I own. One's called Syndax, SNDX, and the other is Cura, KURA. So Syndax announced that their drug had been put into the national guidelines for the treatment of acute myeloid leukemia, and the guidelines that they were put into, it's a network of 33 of the top cancer hospitals. And so this is a big milestone. This is like getting onto the approved vendor list for something. It's so that's great. And they've applied for a new drug application for the FDA, a supplemental new drug application for this indication. And the PDUFA date, or the decision date for the FDA, is October 25th. So they get added to the guidelines ahead of that. That means like everyone expects that they're going to get approved. Now, does that mean the catalyst on October 25th is fully priced in? No, it probably should go up again when they do get that approval on the 25th, because you're taking away a risk factor. True, it's in the price, but I don't think people have been speculating highly on Syndax. So I think good news is good news, and so I'm happy to own it. I think it's going to continue to work through. So I like that one. Cura Oncology, though, had some news out too, and they're working in kind of on drugs that help in oncology that you would add to therapy, so adjunctive therapies. And their data was really positive. They a 50% objective response rate, 80% disease control in this one type of cancer, and that's great. That's should make that a drug, but it's an early stage study. So the big question is, will it scale? Like if you do this in a much larger group, will it still work? And when you do it in a much larger group, which is required, bigger studies are required, can you afford it? And will you need to raise money and the rest? So that stock is down, last I looked, like 7%. And it's good news. Like this is the data you wanted. If you had asked me yesterday or on Thursday, what would it be up? I'd be like, yeah, this should be up 10, 15, 20% on this. And now, am I jumping in, buying it hand over fist because, look, the market, I think, is getting it wrong? No, I bought a little bit more. And the reality is that this was, maybe there's something people are worried about in the data that I haven't read yet. And that's a problem. So I think it's more that people are looking at it and saying there's a long way to go, and we're in a biotech rally, and between this rally and everyone feeling great and when this gets onto the market is a long time. So, but I think it puts them into
the catalyst has been hit, and it's going to be some time before the next one, and so take some chips off.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they're taking chips off of my P&L. So, so I don't like that. Luckily, it feels less bad because the market is up,
David,
and there's.
You're patient.
Yeah. Well, I do. I like that one. I think that, like some of these biotech companies, you can trade around them, and it's getting easier to do that with AI. Like you just look at the catalyst, research the catalyst to death, and then place down your probability bets. That's not how I want to make money. Like that's a very labor intensive, trading oriented approach. But I think like they're one of the long-term winners. They're one of the few players in something called farnesyl transferase inhibitors, or FTIs. So if you want exposure to that area, they're kind of one of the only plays other than like a big drug company. But that's kind of the news for me today. We talked a little bit.
And their balance sheet can sustain long life. Do they need to?
Yeah. For the next few. Yeah, I think for the next few years they're fine. So they don't need to do a raise off of this. The way it's acting today makes me think that someone knows that they're going to do a raise off of this, but down this much, they won't do a raise. So I think you're right. What they did was someone was playing the catalyst, and they're like, done. And I'm out.
Yeah. And on SanDisk, what about that? It sounds like there's something happening on Friday, you said, and then what?
Yeah. So
if you don't own it, do you buy it here in anticipation of that? Is there some risk to Friday, or?
I think there's. I never like saying zero risk, right? Because then that's when lightning strikes. That's when you're on the golf course. You're like, let's play through. It's just a little thunder, And so that's not what I want to do. But that said, I think it's almost zero risk that they don't get it on Friday. And to me, that's if I didn't own it, would I play it for that? Yeah, I probably would. I'd probably flip 1,000 shares, 2,000 shares, and just be like, oh, this is going to be fun. But that's again not. I'm trying not to do that type of investing anymore because it's just not. It's picking up. What's the phrase? Picking up nickels in front of a steamroller. In front of a steamroller. It's like it's better than that, but it's like it's also I just don't enjoy it. I don't. I think it's a good long-term name, and in biotech, I own Z Lab for that reason. I own Syndax for that reason, and a few others.
Okay, so if you don't own it, you could put a little on here.
I think so.
I don't own it, so I might put a little on here.
What's the symbol, David?
Same with
SNDX.
NDX, okay.
SNDX. All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up on that. Let's keep it tight today. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
No, I don't have anything else. Excited to see what happens this week. What's that?
Just waiting for earnings. Just earnings coming up.
Yeah, exactly. We got a big earnings week this week for sure. It's going to be busy. And there's rumors that government might reopen.
Oh, by the way, I do want to say,
I heard something about G not being there anymore.
Yeah, I've heard that was actually making the rounds the last week or so. By the way, so people talking about the movie Tron. The people talking about the movie Tron for Disney, that it's disappointing launch. And I had said a while ago that any movie with the word Tron in it is not going to do well, just because this is the third iteration. The first two didn't do well. I mean, they did okay. I went to see it, and it was excellent. So if you like sci-fi movies, it's not our little Wall Street Beats is not going to turn around the trajectory of Tron. But I will say, don't believe the folks that are saying like, oh, it's not so great. It is a fantastic movie. And so if anyone goes to see it,
and you went to the theater to watch it.
I went to the theater to watch it because it's the only place I'm going to get popcorn and not be guilted around my wife of like, why are you eating popcorn?
You went by yourself.
No, I went with one of my brothers. So I have lots of brothers, and I went with one of.
Okay.
And I actually even saw it in 3D.
And you were able to convince them to join you at the Tron movie. That's pretty good. That's
halfway through
persuasive.
the movie. Halfway through the movie, he reads all the reviews ahead of time. Halfway through the movie, he turns to me and goes, "This is excellent." And I was like, "Yes, there we go." So
Right.
I'm not buying more Disney on it, but I'm just saying, don't believe the thing that this is a horrible loss for Disney. Cost 180 million. Maybe they'll make 50. Maybe they'll make 100. But it's still an excellent movie.
Internationally, and those things have a long life. They'll figure it out. They'll figure out at least how to break even.
Yes, but I don't think there's going to be a Tron 4, so don't worry about that.
All right. Well, maybe or they'll just figure out a sequel to change the name.
Yeah,
that's too bad, because if it's that good, people, and you're right, people they're not going to go just because the name sucks and the first few weren't good. So, why don't you change the name?
It was like, it was almost like, was it Running Man? What was the one that Harrison Ford did? That
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. It's like the remake of Blade Runner. You see, no one went to see it. It ended up doing okay, but it's actually really good. This is way better
Blade
than
Runner.
The remake.
Yeah, I recall liking Blade Runner. Yeah.
This is way
All right,
better.
guys, let's wrap it up. Let's give everybody their Monday back. Thanks for joining us on Wall Street Beats. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, David. Follow us on wallstreetbeats.com and on passes.com/wallstreetbeats. And we will see you back here tomorrow. Have a great Monday. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Jen.
Pleasure as always.
By the way, don't ever